rising from a hot dog cart to a Philadelphia icon, making the Duke of Ellington proud, and a wish that turned old clothes into a national dish. Having steak of any kind makes a good night, but as people around the world have shown, there's plenty of ways to utilize a delicious hunk of beef. Tasso beef may not be very well known outside of Haiti, but it's a street food staple and a popular party dish in its island home. Chef Nickenford Joseph of New York City's Vinyl Steakhouse was born and raised in Port-au-Paix, Haiti, and he has fond memories of the dish, saying, "Haitian tasso beef consists of steak bites marinated in a blend of spices and then fried. The bold, aromatic spices and crispy texture made it a standout dish in my childhood." It's relatively easy to make tasso beef at home. To start, you need tender cuts of steak that cook quickly, cut into cubes. Then you marinate the meat in a mixture of orange and lime juice and a flavorful paste called épices. Once the beef is marinated long enough to absorb the flavors, the cubes are fried until crispy. Tasso beef is often served with fried plantains or rice and beans. If there's one steak dish worth jumping on a plane for, many experts agree it's Brazilian churrasco. Churrasco simply refers to any meat cooked on skewers over flames. More than a few of the experts we spoke to said picanha is their favorite cut for churrasco, also called a sirloin cap. This cut comes from the rump of the cow and contains a fat cap. Sebastian Garrido of Vibe Adventures, a travel agency based out of Mexico City, said, "I love that picanha has a layer of fat that adds a lot of flavor, leaving you with a cut of meat that's juicy, tender, and buttery."
It's like really tender, almost like a filet, but with the flavor profile of a ribeye.
Chef David Rose of Omaha Steaks said that even modest cuts of meat like skirt, flank, and flap steaks can be truly delicious when cooked churrasco style over an open flame, saying, "These working man-woman steaks are transformed into something phenomenal, juicy and tasty when cooked correctly. Cooked medium rare and sliced against the grain is the way to go with these steaks." A bright, tangy chimichurri sauce can also take your churrasco to the next level. It's hard to think of a more classic British dish than beef Wellington. Named after the Duke of Ellington, it consists of beef tenderloin covered in minced mushrooms and pâté, wrapped in puff pastry, and cooked in the oven. Dagan Lin, executive chef of Beef, It's What's for Dinner, said, "Beef Wellington is always a standout for me. Steak paired with delectable ingredients like foie gras and foraged mushrooms all wrapped in a flaky, delicious dough, layered with butter is a knockout combination." Although beef Wellington can be complicated to make, many experts agree it's worth the effort.
It's very easy to overthink it, if you will, but it's not a complex thing.
Jason Kennedy, in-house meat expert at Verde Farms, offered a few tips for home cooks, saying, "Make sure to get a good sealing sear on the tenderloin and allow the steak to cool before encasing it in the puff pastry. Also, try rolling the steak into a crepe before the puff pastry to help with crispiness and hold in any juice." Yakiniku is a dining experience that involves cooking meat, seafood, and vegetables on a grill over fire, with diners typically cooking the meat themselves. Beef is often the star of the show, and it gets a further kick of flavor from Yakiniku dipping sauce, made with soy sauce, mirin, and sesame seeds. As Gabrielle Marie Yap, senior editor at Carnivore Style, explains, "There's something about the combination of the tender, rich beef with the sweet and savory Yakiniku sauce that just melts in your mouth. I also love the interactive experience of grilling the steak yourself at the table, which adds a fun and social element to the meal. Yakiniku is delicious on its own, but the communal aspect truly takes it to the next level. This makes this style of cooking ideally suited for a celebratory dinner." Steak is an integral part of Mexican cuisine, especially in the northern states, where there are vast open spaces ideal for raising cattle. You may have heard of carne asada, but if you're in the northeastern state of Nuevo León, Aguja norteña is the way to go. Aguja norteña is a chuck cut that usually contains a thin strip of bone. It's often compared to chuck eye steaks in the States. These tender cuts are cooked over fire and flipped often to retain the juices, with Sebastian Garrido adding, "The preparation is similar to other steaks, but I always use something we call tomillo, which would be thyme when marinating it." Like many Mexican meats, Aguja norteña is often served with tortillas, salsa, and beans. Steak au poivre is an iconic French dish, so it should come as no surprise that many classically trained chefs have a soft spot for it. Chef Nickenford Joseph said, "Lately, steak au poivre has been my favorite international steak dish to prepare. This French classic features a steak coated in crushed peppercorns, seared, and then served with a luscious cognac green peppercorn sauce. Home cooks also love the dish because it's not too complicated to prepare, but offers loads of flavor."
Woo! I mean, who doesn't love this? It's such a showstopper.
Filet mignon is the ideal cut of beef for the dish because it's very tender. However, you can also experiment with other cuts, like New York strip or boneless ribeye. The sauce is also key. Many chefs sauté shallots, butter, and peppercorns in the pan the steak was cooked in, then deglaze with cognac or brandy and add the cream at the end. This results in a truly heavenly dish bursting with many different flavors. Ask Aussies what dish they consider quintessentially Australian, and many will tell you it's a good old-fashioned meat pie. As Jason Kennedy said, "Slow-cooked, tender and flavorful meat and gravy with flaky pastry. Hard to beat." The delicate pastry encases the tender meat and gravy, creating a dish full of delicious texture and flavor. Plus, it's hearty, portable, and easy to eat. You can fill an Aussie pie with pretty much anything you desire, like chicken, fish, beef, vegetables, or cheese. But steak is one of the most common fillings. The key is to use quality ingredients like a rich, buttery short crust for the pastry, slow-cooked cuts like chuck roast for a chunky meat filling, and flavorful ingredients for the gravy like garlic, onions, beef stock, Worcestershire sauce, and tomato paste. Argentina has a long history of cattle ranching, so it should come as no surprise that steak is an integral part of Argentinian culture. Asado was specifically born out of gaucho traditions that date back to the 18th century. Kilian Guzzo, executive chef at Miami's Lafayette Steakhouse, said, "Asado in Argentina is a unique culinary experience where the ritual of preparation and cooking is as important as the meal itself."
When we're growing up in Argentina, asados are family moments and we all get together.
A traditional asado starts with a fire made with wood. Often, only one person is appointed as the grill master. That person is responsible for cooking meats like short ribs, flank steak, and tenderloin. Daniel Yohai Cruz, head of product at Wild Fork, expounded, "Beef is really at the center of everything, and minimal seasoning is needed for such flavorful cuts of meat." The Philly cheesesteak combines two things Americans love: steak and sandwiches. The dish was invented in the 1930s by a man named Pat Oliveri, who ran a hot dog stand close to Philadelphia's Italian market. One day, Oliveri decided to switch things up and add chopped beef and grilled onions to a hot dog bun, instead of a frank. Once cheese got added to this new type of sandwich, the Philly cheesesteak was born. The real reason Philly has the magic touch when it comes to cheesesteaks is the ingredients. First, you need a roll that is crusty on the outside, but soft and pillowy inside. The steak is also key. Only ribeye steak will do. The final touches include chopped onions cooked on the grill and either cheese whiz or provolone. If you're dining at an Italian restaurant and happen to see Bistecca alla fiorentina on the menu, many experts say you'd be remiss not to try it. Also known as Florentine steak, the dish is essentially steak grilled over flames and seasoned very simply. What makes it so special then? As Gabrielle Marie Yap explained, this dish features a T-bone steak from the Chianina cattle breed, one of the oldest cattle breeds in the world. It's traditionally cooked over a wood or charcoal fire and seasoned with just salt, black pepper, and a squeeze of lemon. Thanks to the lean meat and fine marbling of Chianina beef, this steak is indeed complete without any kind of fancy sauce. Plus, cooking it over fire imparts a unique flavor. Guzzo said, "It's simple but delicious, with grilling that highlights the quality of the meat." One of the most popular Korean barbecue dishes, bulgogi, typically consists of thinly sliced beef that is marinated in a sweet and savory soy-based sauce. The meat is then either grilled over charcoal or sautéed in a skillet. Bulgogi is often eaten with rice or rolled up in a lettuce leaf. The trick for making supremely tasty bulgogi is choosing the right cut of steak. You want something that is tender and has a good balance of fat and lean meat, like ribeye or sirloin. The beef should be sliced as thin as possible so that it soaks up all the marinade and cooks evenly on the grill or skillet. A typical Bulgogi marinade contains sweet, salty, and savory elements like soy sauce, ginger, sugar, and sesame oil. It may also contain fruit juices from pears or kiwis to help tenderize the meat. The result is a dish that's beautifully textured and packed with flavor. The national dish of Cuba has an interesting name that belies its bold flavors. Ropa vieja actually translates to old clothes, and the legend has it that the dish was born when a poor man was so hungry he cooked his own tattered clothes. As he cooked, he prayed, and the clothes miraculously transformed into a rich meat stew. The reality is, the name probably comes from the way the shredded beef in the dish looks. Either way, it's a supremely tasty meal that originated in Spain but got its uniquely Caribbean flavors from Cuba. Ropa vieja typically consists of a tougher cut of beef, like flank steak. The meat is slow cooked with a colorful mix of bell peppers, onions, tomatoes, and beef broth, as well as spices like cumin and oregano. Everything is simmered together until the beef is tender enough to shred with a fork. It's typically served with rice and beans and fried plantains, with lime wedges on the side. Tons of people can't get enough Hungarian goulash. Historians believe the dish dates back to the 9th century. And over the centuries, the peasant dish made it into the kitchens of nobility and eventually across the world. Goulash typically consists of tougher cuts of beef that are slow cooked with bright ingredients that give it vibrant flavor. These could include tomatoes, bell peppers, garlic, and beef broth. However, goulash also has a touch of smokiness and slight heat from the paprika. Unlike many similar dishes, goulash is typically served in its broth rather than cooked down until it becomes ultra thick. It can be eaten on its own or with crusty bread to sop up the liquid goodness. Pepper steak is the perfect stir-fry dish, packed with tasty strips of marinated steak and bright veggies. As Nick and Fur Joseph said, this dish is a delightful blend of savory flavors, incorporating ingredients like soy sauce, honey, and garlic. The peppers add a colorful, crunchy element that complements the tender beef perfectly. It's a well-balanced dish that brings together sweet, salty, and umami flavors. Chinese pepper steak is pretty easy to make at home. To start, you'll need a tender cut of beef like flank steak, cut into strips. There are many different recipes for the marinade, but most include soy sauce and cornstarch. You can also add ingredients like black pepper, sesame oil, ginger, shaoxing cooking wine, and honey for extra flavor. Let the meat absorb the flavors. Then sauté it with onions and bell peppers. Pepper steak is often served with rice, which acts as the perfect canvas for its vibrant flavors.